Hello and welcome to The Drug Trip. If you're new here, then thank you for clicking on this video. Our channel is a treasure trove of detailed trip reports on various substances, as well as interesting factual videos such as the one that you are about to watch. We love making those videos, so if you could, like the video and please subscribe, as it helps us massively knowing that you enjoy our content. Food can cause all sorts of feelings and emotions, despite of making us happy when it fills our tummies. There are foods that can excite us or make us tired, cause weird dreams, and even other unexpected effects. And did you know that there are common foods that can actually make you hallucinate? Food can at times have a profound effect, not just on our body, but also on our minds. It can make for quite an eclectic assortment of feelings, from happiness to sadness, with everything in between. Yet, some foods can cause a whole host of effects on a whole different level, with some of them outright psychedelic. They can cause hallucinations, visions, and other effects that make certain drugs look lame in comparison. And strangely enough, some of these foods can make you hallucinate are rather ordinary foods that you can find even on your local supermarket shelf. So, here's a list of some of these foods that can indeed make you trip hard. The awesome word ichthyoalli-inotoxism stands for hallucinogenic fish inebriation, or said differently, a type of fish poisoning with effects that are similar to those of LSD. Not all fish, whether fresh or gone bad, does make you trip though. The type of psychedelic experience that comes with hallucinations, both visual and auditory, normally happens only from eating certain species of fish. And by the way, we actually made a video detailing one particular psychedelic fish known as Selema porgy. I'll put the link in the description and be sure to check that out. It's not entirely clear whether the fishy and trippy toxins are actually produced by the fish themselves, or whether it has to do with certain algae that these fish eat for their diet. In any case, there are several reports of people who have had quite an exciting time after they ingested fish. An example is one gentleman in France who had the pleasure to see aggressive and screaming animals and giant arthropods after he felt what he only thought was merely an ordinary case of fish poisoning from a sea bream. Sea bream being a type of fish that is known to cause such effects on occasion, but more so in particular if you eat its head. Back in the Middle Ages, people actually tripped quite a bit, and no one back then really knew the reason. The usual explanation, of course, had been possession by demons, witchcraft, things like that, which at the time seemed like a good explanation, seeing that folks also had intensive convulsions and other bad symptoms with their trips. And if we say bad, we actually mean it, since lots of people didn't actually survive this horrifying experience. Today though, we know better. It wasn't actually demons, but it was tainted rye bread. Rye can develop a fungus that's called ergot, which contains the compound ergotamine, one of the precursor chemicals in LSD. If said mould happens to get into the rye bread, things can get rather trippy. Because of the scary psychedelic and physical effects caused by tainted rye, it's now the opinion of some historians that the hallucinations may possibly have had a role in causing the mass hysteria which ultimately led to the Salem witch trials. Needless to say, with ergot poisoning being potentially fatal, you better forget that mouldy rye bread idea if you want to have a good time, and more so, if you want to live. It's not necessarily the caffeine by itself that causes hallucinations, but a study from 2009 found an interesting correlation between caffeine consumption and hallucinations. Researchers had been interested in hallucinations and other psychotic experiences encountered in everyday life. You know, when even normal folks think that they see something weird and unexplainable, like a ghost type or some type of paranormal presence. The scientists in question found that caffeine increases the level of the stress hormone cortisol, with the result being that it makes us rather paranoid and anxious. A few cups of coffee would be all that it would take to see and hear things a little bit more often, and this would also include more of those strange things which then freak us out. For example, the classic definition of hallucination, Obviously, this qualifies caffeine to be on our list. Chili heads know about the awesome effects of eating hot peppers. Super spicy foods can definitely make for some good head trips, but now there is some evidence that they are good for much more. There is a case of a consultant radiologist from the UK, Mr. Rothwell, who ate the world's hottest curry that was stuffed with 20 Naga Infinity chilies. It was reported that it was so potent he ended up hallucinating. And some other gentleman, Marshall Terry, had a very similar experience after tasting a pepper named HP22B, better known as the Carolina Reaper, the world's hottest pepper. While these reports about tripping on chili peppers may sound hard to believe at first, it can help when you know that peppers are actually in the same botanical family as potatoes, tobacco, and even the deadly nightshade. We already know that tobacco has a psychological effect, albeit a very mild one, and the deadly nightshade is an extremely toxic plant. So it's no surprise that super hot peppers, and we're talking about heat levels that make jalapenos look like a joke, would bring on such experiences. Nutmeg isn't just what you sprinkle on your cinnamon rolls for baking. It's actually quite a potent psychoactive hallucinogen if taken in just the right doses. A mere 5 to 15 grams of ground nutmeg would be enough to get quite a substantial effect. It may not sound much, but eating it straight up is another matter. Nutmeg contains the active compound mystristicin, which is a chemical precursor for MMDA. And if you're into chemistry or feeling like Heisenberg, that's all you need to know how to raise any doubt about the effectiveness of nutmeg. And on the other hand, nutmeg has some disadvantages, or advantages, depending on how you look at it. Should you toy with the idea of wanting to consume it for the purposes of getting high? The first is that it can take a long time, up to 8 hours, until you feel the effect. The other is that once it kicks in, the effects of nutmeg can last a very long time, sometimes for several days. So just in case you're feeling curious, you may want to take this into account. Some definite disadvantages are feelings of fatigue and headaches, also growing tired of the experience but having to endure it anyway. While not all poppies are the culprit, there is a type out there whose seeds contain small amounts of opiate alkaloids. And what's surprising is that these seeds are often used in the food industry. On the other hand, cases of people from eating a single bagel sprinkled with some seeds don't really happen. To get high from poppy seeds, you need to eat quite a lot of them. In a study from 2005, cheese experts from the British Cheese Board Council found that most people experienced strange and vivid dreams after they ate Stilton cheese before bedtime. Other types of cheese, like certain varieties of blue cheese, are also said to contribute to extraordinarily vivid and lucid dreaming. What exactly about cheese would be responsible for the cheese dreams isn't known. It's possible that an amino acid, tryptophan, which is a substance that is known to have a relaxing effect, could play a role. But then there are other foods that contain the same substance, such as eggs, tofu, etc., where people have not reported any changes in their dreams whatsoever. An alternative explanation could be that cheese takes longer to digest in our bodies, and that this could possibly keep your body and brain more active at night, leading to such intensive and vivid cheesy dreams. There's evidence that eating lots of unripe mulberries, the green shoots or the sap makes for a trippy experience, although most of these reports are anecdotal. On the other hand, before you consider giving yourself mulberries as a shot for some powerful psychedelic research, please consider that unripe mulberry will make you feel absolutely awful. You don't need to eat quite a bunch of these fruits for any effect, and you'll in all likelihood end up puking your guts out. And barfing like there's no tomorrow isn't exactly the best thing that you want to happen to you when high. So you might possibly want to think twice about whether this would be really worth it. And the last item on our list is, unsurprisingly, magic mushrooms. So magic mushrooms, as we all know, can cause hallucinations that are all relatively common, and you can pretty much find them anywhere you go. Most of them, however, come with strange and sometimes unpleasant side effects, which can make them not so attractive for the curious psychonaut. And magic mushrooms have the benefit that their effects and optimal doses are usually known amongst experienced users. They also don't come with the other potential problems of the above foods, They're a tried and true method for psychonauts to reach the stars in their mind, and like the psychedelic fish, our channel has various trip reports involving magic mushrooms, so be sure to check them out. In any case, for the adventurous enough, it might be worthwhile adding some of these items to your shopping list for a bit of natural fun. But as always, we do not advocate ingesting any kind of substance for recreational purposes. And once again, thanks very much for checking out this video, and please do us a huge favour and hit that subscribe button, and be on the lookout for our next trip reports. Stay safe and be well.